All right, and I believe we're live. Walt, you want to say something?
I'm very happy to get started.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. All right. So, this is Walt Taylor, and I will be painting him today. Walt.
Painting a picture of me, you will be actually painting on me. No.
Yeah, I won't be painting on you. I'll be painting a picture of you. That's right. That's right. So, for those that don't know who Walt is a prolific cartoonist and art director, designer, which I guess we should probably say that you've done cartoon illustrations for newspapers.
Lots, yeah.
Lots of them. And as far as you've done animations for videos.
I have.
Yeah. You're working on one right now, aren't you?
I'm halfway through one right now that I've been halfway through for a while. I keep getting other smaller jobs that I have to hold it up to do.
Got you. So these are small jobs to keep the fun jobs going.
And they keep the money coming in, yes.
Yes.
The video animations I do for friends who have a band out in California, and I don't get paid very much for that.
Yeah, it's a passion project then?
It's a work of love, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess you have such an extensive career, I guess we could probably talk a little bit about that. How did you get started? How did you get started with art? As far as were you the one that you always knew you were going to do art?
Ever since I can remember, I have loved drawing. That has been my primary activity, and fortunately, my mother saved some of my work from when I was like 4 years old and 5 years old, and that is just what I've always felt compelled to do. And I never thought, I'm going to make a career out of this, or I'm going to choose a kind of drawing that will make money for myself. It's just, I did it all the time, and if people paid for it, that was just a bonus.
That's great. So when you look back at your work from, just make it real quick. There we go. Let's see if that works out a little bit better. That's the part we edit out, maybe. So when you look at that work that you did when you were 4 years old, did you see anything like significant? Like, wow, I could see I was already on a path, or is it just kind
of? No, not really. I mean, all 4-year-olds have interesting interpretations of the world. And it's always fun to watch what a child makes out of art. And I've always thought that children's art was something kind of special. And but it really doesn't mean that you're going to be an artist when you grow up. It's just. But my parents always encouraged me to keep drawing because it was fun, and so. It was just very pleasurable to do.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that from a lot of different people in different careers, and the underlying theme seems to be having supporting parents.
That's a huge thing, yeah.
I think that was, if we look at John Singer Sargent, his parents, were very supporting. I think they even, at some point, I think he had to choose as far as who to understudy, and I guess it was Duran that he ultimately picked. But I think I don't know enough if his parents paid for that. I imagine they may have. I mean, can you imagine? Hey, who do you want to study under?
Yeah, jeez.
No wonder he was so good.
Yeah. Well, my father's support was conditional, and he would always say when I was in high school and stuff like that, he would say, okay, now this is you're getting really cool at drawing and cartoons and having fun and stuff, but you need to pick a profession to have a job and have a salary and work in an office for. And it took me a while to get out of that mindset, thinking I had to find a profession. In fact, when I first went to college, I picked a major of pre-law, and it was so awful that I didn't make it through that first year of college.
Oh
And,
man!
you
So
know,
pre-law. So you had considered going
being
to
a
be
lawyer, becoming a lawyer.
Wow.
But it took failing at that, and then being drafted and joining the Air Force and spending 4 years in the Air Force to get me to come out of that and be my own person and say I'm gonna use art to make whatever money I'm going to make and to have whatever profession I'm going to have, and so.
Well, that's interesting. So you had. I think we have a lot of similarities. My dad was, well, he just finished. His legal career. He was a lawyer, and the year 2019 was his last year practicing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting there, me, my son, and he was calling up the bar association. He had two, he only called one, but at this time, but he was licensed to practice law in 2 states, Wisconsin and Illinois. And I remember the surrealness of it, that he called and had said, hey, I'm going to be, not renewing my law license. And I remember feeling like, wow, this is it. This is, It was very profound to witness it. And, all my life I've known him, as someone practicing law. And, it really becomes part of who you are. And it really was part of, my dad and everything that he did. And, to watch him, give that up, to retire, it was kind of profound to watch. But at the same time, it's different, I think, for us because while we choose to be an artist, I don't think there's that retirement. I don't think we ever look at.
No,
we're going to stop creating.
Right. Yeah. That's the furthest thing from my mind is stopping doing that. One thing I discovered, fortunately for me, was that you can apply your artistic temperament and your way of seeing artily to several different kinds of jobs. I had a job doing publications for an architectural firm, and then a job making on-air graphics for the local PBS station, and then I joined an ad agency and concepted commercials and did print ads and everything, and all of that made use of my artistic abilities and my artistic bent. It wasn't, and not that I didn't keep up drawing cartoons and things like that in the meantime, but there are many ways to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be a starving artist.
Yeah, you don't have to be a starving artist. I think though that there's certain how would you say? It definitely seems though that the model is changing, and I think one of the things that I really admire about you is that you are it seems to be adept at embracing technology, and relatively. I mean, I realize, there's not going to be a, hey, look, it's virtual reality, Walt Taylor, doing VR, but maybe one day, but maybe not. But, as far as when I first saw your work, before I even met you, I was working as an art director in DC, and I came across your work while I was up there, and you were doing these cartoons, and you were doing these landscapes with the Wacom tablet, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I never even knew you were around in the area.
Wow. Well, for some reason, computers really fascinated me. And I actually, when I was with the ad agency, I actually talked them into getting their first Mac. They were non-computer people entirely, and it was just a revelation what you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned software. I even learned programming, AppleSoft or whatever it was called at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I made an expense account form for employees. I don't know why that appealed to me, but it did. But boy, when the graphics part came into computers and using the Wacom tablet, I just ate that up. That was just amazing for me to be able to paint on a computer.
Yeah, when I got into computers, I wouldn't say early, but somewhat. I mean, there wasn't a Wacom tablet.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, well, I can draw my work, and they have this thing called a scanner, and I could scan my work and then color it in the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that. I said, that's definitely a possibility. However, I was still learning my art style too, so I just didn't have. I was all over the place. Had so many different influences that I really just didn't know which direction to go to, and these computers were like eye candy.
Absolutely, they were fascinating.
Yeah, they were definitely. It was definitely like eye candy, and I just was like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do, and I wanted to be a comic book artist, but then I realized I didn't have the training, and I wasn't very confident in what I wanted, what I saw myself doing, and the kind of work I was putting out was not the same, and I knew it wasn't good enough. So I think that's kind of where I said I need to go to school and I need to learn how to use these computers for me. But so you started doing these computers fairly early on then.
Oh yeah.
And programming even.
Yeah, I did. I dropped that after a while because A, it wasn't needed, and B, that's not what I really wanted to spend my time on. I was so captivated with being able to make images that the programming part wasn't as interesting to me after that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to draw pictures on a computer, and I never had the problem that a lot of artists apparently do, the tactility. Obviously, it's not like it is drawing on paper or painting on a canvas or something like that. But that never bothered me. Just using a stylus on a screen worked perfectly fine for me.
Yeah, I found the same thing. I mean, it's like there were things about the Wacom tablet I couldn't do with traditional media, but I didn't let it hold me back from creating. I just realized this is a completely different tool. I shouldn't try to make it something it's not, because it's never going to be that
You're
way.
not in competition with traditional media.
No.
But you can do so many more things that you
Mm-hmm.
can't. And for some reason, I've always admired oil painting and the ability to do that in the wonderful smears of color you can make. But the idea of setting up tubes of paint and turpentine and palettes and things like that, I'm too lazy to do that. And to clean up afterwards, I mean, all you have to do when you're drawing on a computer is turn the machine off and walk away. You don't have to clean up anything.
Right, yeah.
And that kind of appealed to my lazy sense of creativity.
I really didn't do much oil painting in college, and I didn't have a good oil teacher. It was just like, here you go, here's how you mix your basic colors. And they never taught us about painting in college. They really didn't. And so, anything I learned was just by trial and error, and I didn't. Yeah. I liked oil, I just knew I didn't know enough about it, and so I kept trying to embrace digital.
I took an oil painting course in college, and I don't know if you remember seeing that painting of me that looks like Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Well, I spent an entire semester doing that one painting.
I'll bet. And it's
And,
very detailed.
And I had a teacher who would come and look over my shoulder and said, "Hey, you didn't get the job just right." And he'd take a cloth and wipe it off, so I'd have to start over again. But that sort of cured me of high-class oil painting, is just the amount of time it takes to do it, you know. And my brain doesn't work in that particular way, I think.
You can train it, I believe. I mean, it's just, and I think you
Yeah.
definitely have, you know, I think it's just having that resource of being able to quickly adapt, which you have. I think
Yeah.
you're right, though. The oil painting there is some time involved, but I think it's a quicker jump than you might imagine. You know, the obstacles of doing it. There's a jump, but you know, I don't know. I can't explain it, but I really do. I do enjoy the tactile. So like when I try acrylics,
sure.
It's like, oh no, I don't really like it. You know, just it's not.
Well,
for
I mean,
me.
I have oil painting friends like you who are masters of the medium, and I admire everything you do, and I'm jealous to some extent, and maybe once a year I'll get out my oil paints and try an oil painting, and then I'll realize that this is not a good way to spend my time, because I can work in other media much better than I do oil painting. I'll just content myself to admire my friends' work and then go ahead and do what I do better, you know. So
You know, I
it
think
works out.
Yeah, I'm definitely believe that, you know, digital work can can stand the test of time with proper care.
Mm-hmm.
But just like a painting, if you don't have that proper care, then it's lost forever. And there has to be, you know, some kind of diligence. And I do, you know, I'm not one of those purists that feel that, you know, oh, this is, you know, oil painting is this and you know, everything else is, you know, I can't stand that purist view.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's very indignant.
And
But there's
we have
something about
we have
oil.
some friends in the Norfolk drawing group who are very purist in that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It takes all kinds, but that's not my temperament to
Yeah.
be that way.
Yeah, it's funny to when you see their you know, they express their views and everything. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine, you know, good for you.
Yeah, and it's funny. There's still a lot of negativity about digital work.
There should
There are
be.
people who say, "Well, why don't you try doing real painting?" You know, oh yeah, you do it digitally. Well, it's like it's cheating almost. You know, but so what? That doesn't bother me. I don't care. So,
Yeah, I think in all fairness, it really comes down because there are so many people out there that use the digital work and they don't have the chops to draw.
Oh, and there's people who take shortcuts. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that gives, it's just like me and Devon were talking about watercolors. There's a lot of amazing watercolors out there, but it's how would you say it? Because I don't have an answer as far as why, but there just seems to be, at least I've encountered a lot of people that will do the projection and paint.
Oh, yeah.
With
Oh,
the
yeah.
watercolors, and I see that a lot.
Yeah.
They don't, I mean, there are people that I love, like, I'm not sure if you know of Dick Sneary. He's an amazing watercolorist, as well as David Savellino. And I mean, these guys are just, I believe a lot of them have backgrounds in architectural landscape drawing. And so,
Yeah, that's an entirely different.
yeah. I think another one is Kiko Watanabe, I believe. She's amazing. When I first, started getting on social media, she was early adapting to that. And I mean, just what they did was just like, wow. I felt like, why haven't I seen their stuff before?
Yeah.
It's like, where have I been? What rock have I been hiding under? And, I mean, there's so many more great watercolorists out there, but it's great, like we were talking about earlier with social media, you get to be exposed to that.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, I don't think I would have realized who you were. And then when that fateful day that I went to the Dr. Sketchies, and you and Mark showed up, and then I realized who you were. I was like, oh wow, this is Walt Taylor.
That's funny. I came across a bunch of drawings from that Dr. Sketchy session. It was kind of funny.
Oh yeah, it was quite amazing. And I'm just totally nervous that, it says it's recording, so I'm just totally nervous that I'm using, and I don't hear that fan overheating like I did last time.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just totally paranoid that we're talking, I'm going to have to rely on this phone audio, and then it's going to be like, no. So for anybody tuning in, this is like my second time doing this, where I'm painting and we're chatting. There is no art instruction here. I'm not here to teach you how to paint. This is just, a great way to chat with my friends and, just have fun painting. So, yeah. Let me go check. I'm paranoid. So.
Go right ahead.
Let's check real quick, because I'm super paranoid. It's kind of like the you ran out of tape kind of thing. Oh, it's still recording. and the fans aren't like blasting. And I just realized I forgot to save this to a hard drive. Well, we're only doing an hour, so I'm hoping I have enough space. I forgot to put this to a hard drive.
Okay.
So, whoops.
I'll talk fast. I'll talk really fast.
No, don't talk fast. I have to paint fast. We're into 20 minutes. Okay, so that's not too bad.
Okay.
So I not all of these paintings have to be finished paintings. I just feel like,
Sure.
this is more about the process than anything else. The fun part of it.
Actually, I like unfinished paintings just as much as finished ones.
There's some really good artists that do that.
It's funny, our friend Mark, whom you know well, does little quick sketch paintings to start off before he does the real one.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, they look so much better than with the final product, because they're loose and brushy and just an impression of what he's going for. And over time, he'll just get more and more realistic and smooth out the lumps and stuff. And sometimes you lose something in that process.
Yeah, the freshness.
Yeah.
I think that's what I like about plein air painting is there's a level of freshness.
Yeah, you got a certain amount of time that you can capture what you got, and so you look for what appeals to you the most and get it down. And
yeah, I think that's what I love about a lot of your work, because you're doing direct observations with your digital paintings.
And also with plain old drawing, I do a lot of drawings of people just being themselves in informal situations, like at the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't stay still. Whatever appealed to me when I saw them that I wanted to capture, I had to capture really quickly, because they're likely to just get up and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great exercise to see what lines are the most important to you and get them down quickly, and then fill it in, and then work it into something else.
Yeah, getting that gesture, that line work. And you're really amazing at that line work.
Oh, well, thank you.
I just watched, over the years, it's like, man, how does he do that?
Well, I mean, I've been doing it since I was 4, so I'd better be pretty good at it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this so long,
And it's not something I have to think about and work at doing. It's kind of like breathing. It's just what I do. If I have time that I'm not doing anything else, I'll pick up a pen or a pencil and I'll start drawing, because that's what feels good to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as if it were an assignment or a job I had to fulfill or something. It's just what I do when I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, I'm amazed that you've been able to stay into the design field for so long, because I feel like for me, I got burnt out, but in all fairness, I was working during the bomb era, and I worked like a dog, and it just,
Oh, really?
that burnout for me, and of creating something that was frivolous and not going to, how would you say, it wasn't going to stand the test of time. It was going to be gone and worthless within months. And that drove me mad to work so hard. And neither the client nor anyone else seemed to really care about the hard work, the labor that you put in. I said, why am I working so hard?
Yeah, I can understand that. I always go into that stuff, graphic design stuff, posters and things like that. I go into it thinking, okay, here's something I can do for a little while that'll make me money because people will pay for that, and of course these days I do it all digitally anyway, and it's kind of fun to go into, for example, Adobe Illustrator, which I hardly ever use.
I know, I remember that.
And actually make broad colors and bold illustrations and things like that, and use type in interesting ways, and that can be a challenge of its own. I wouldn't want to do that exclusively, but to have something else that you do that is a moneymaker is not a bad thing.
No.
But you're working for a client, and that's always got its drawbacks, because they have an impression of what they want, and you have an impression of what you want to do, and sometimes they don't align with each other perfectly. But
Right.
when they do, it's good. And,
What would you tell somebody, what were some of the obstacles that when you got into the ad agency, that you felt that you had to overcome, that you feel that, is different or relevant today? Besides, obviously, you're creating for a client, and they have, you're tailor making something for them.
Some of the tension involved was that we, the art directors and designers, didn't spend a lot of time interacting with the client themselves. We had account executives who would sit down with the client and get a concept of what the client was looking for, and then pass that on to us. And sometimes they didn't do such a good job of it, or
Lost in communication?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had that.
And the good ones would help mold the client's expectations too, so that so we would end up with something that we were all happy with. And but not all account executives were good ones like that. Just like not all of us artists were good ones too. So and we worked in teams, and that has its own projects. As it has its good and bad points. But when you work together and you were on the same wavelength, you could create something a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely.
One of our big clients was the Virginia Lottery when it first started out, and they wanted their commercials to be fun and humorous, and that was a lot of fun to do. It's just to be funny, just to think of ways to be funny in a commercial.
What was one of the, you had a very popular one, was it Lucky?
Lady Luck was...
Lady Luck, your thing.
Yeah, that was our invention, that my creative team came up with.
I remember that.
Yeah, and we interviewed a lot of actresses, and we picked one who had really kind of funny looks, and she was a good actress, and it was...
Yeah, I thought she really fit this part of like a whimsical person with personality, but quirky and you know, unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I think, you
Yeah.
know, which really kind of is really what you're doing is you're gambling.
Right.
So
Right.
you don't know if you're going to win.
But we had a great client and a great budget, and we would go out to California, go out to LA to shoot our commercials with the professionals out there and the professional actors out there, and it was a whole lot of fun.
That's amazing. And you also are, I know this is probably a small one for you, but I remember you're also responsible for the no profanity sign. And
No, thanks for bringing that up. Oh, I've gotten a lot of bad feedback of it. Apparently, those are very unpopular signs at the beach. These no profanity signs, but I mean, I just did it because the client wanted it done. You know, I don't care if people swear at the beach, but oh yeah, I've taken a lot of heat about that.
God forbid they come to the Norfolk Drawing Group.
Oh man, you want profanity?
Yeah, there's some profanity for you. Speaking of which, is one of the things I've kind of tried to. I don't know how successful I'll be at this, but I've tried to, you know, not make this little video blog political or you know, laced with profanity, because I really wanted to try and reach as many people as possible, you know, and not have that you know, oh, don't, you know, my daughter was watching this and, you know, this guy named Walt or Devon or Mark, you know, or any of the other people I plan to have, you know, just totally, you know, F-bombing. And I said, you know, there's plenty of places for that. You know, there's definitely plenty of places that there's plenty of places for, you know, the political stuff. And I said, you know, there's got to be something that where we could, you know, just talk about, you know, being creative and the creative process and not have to.
Yeah,
go there.
that stuff is what keeps me sane in this today's political atmosphere, is just to make art.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing that, you know, I have. You go to a concert. I took my son to the Dead Kennedys, and you know,
Oh, cool.
it was really great. But you know, you got to expect some political commentary from there.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, while that's not bad, you know, and it's good to have, you know, bands that do that. You know, it's just, how do you say? Life is short, and I just didn't feel like I wanted to have that.
There's plenty of that to go.
I didn't want the
Plenty of
hate,
that to go around.
You've gotten some, you know, you're political without, you know, getting political. I don't know if we can manage to do that. We'll try, but you know, when your cartoons, I remember people would get angry.
Well, I mean, I was an editorial cartoonist for the paper for several years, and the letters to the editors, some of them, yeah, they were incensed. They couldn't, and I took some pride in that.
But I mean, that's kind of your job, is to stoke the fire.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, and make
someone think.
people think. Yeah. No, that was fine. That was okay. Just as long as they didn't look up my address and firebomb my house or anything.
You never had anybody like confront you over any of that, have you?
Not personally, no.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I know with the Charlie Hebdo, that really hit home for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
You know, as far as that particular instance of, you know, retaliation, which I think, you know, really kind of, you know, shockwaves. Is like, well, they're just a little paper that does art and cartoons and commentary. That's not a, you know, I don't think they speak for that many people, right?
Yeah, I mean, we ought to be immune. Artists should be immune from that kind of stuff.
You would hope.
It doesn't necessarily work that way.
I think it's hard though when you have some people that feel like it's they get a platform and then suddenly they feel like they're entitled to tell everyone, you know, what they're feeling, and I'm not sure that they're the person to speak for a generation, you know.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, it's, how would you say? It's not. It's and I really do mean when they go beyond just, voicing something. It's just, they really, I don't know, soapbox, and yet they, when you look at what, they're about, and you're just like, okay, it's kind of like pot calling the kettle black. And I feel like, those moments have to have been ripe for you when you were doing cartoons.
Yeah, and there were times when I felt uncomfortable because, I mean, a single editorial cartoon on a subject can't. It's got to be pretty blatant and simple-minded. You can't go into a lot of subtleties in a single cartoon, and so I was aware that I was expressing something that I was a bit ambivalent about, but that was part of that job, and so.
Did you ever get told, like, sorry, this can't be published? I think you have, haven't you? Or
once or twice, and for reasons that that had nothing to do with the meaning of the cartoon. That was the strange way. It was like I would use a word, like I'd use the word crap, and my editor said, that's a word for poop. It's like, can you use something else? But that's the only kind of criticisms I ever got from my editors were wonderful. They just allowed me to pick whatever subject I felt to do and to say whatever I was inclined to say about it.
wow.
And in then giving me that latitude, then I made a point of not getting terribly vicious or anything like that, because they were doing me a favor. So it worked out pretty well. But by the time I was done, I was really done, because most of the cartoons were about our current president, because he made sure he was always in the news. So I was ready to move on to something else.
Yeah, I can imagine, the current political environment for some, while it can be a treasure trove of material, but at some point, you got to go like, okay, I've had enough.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, you've had enough. You're like, I can't pick the last wing off the fly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too easy. Did you find it was because it was too easy, or just the political climate was just too hard?
It was easy and kind of banging on the same subject over and over again.
Not enough variety.
Yeah, and it got to the point where it was just annoying people without changing anybody's minds or anything. So
I think that's really tough for a political cartoonist or anybody who does social commentary now. It's just how do you make your art or your craft relevant, and you realize you can't affect the change, or at least it seems impossible to affect the change. It just seems like, we're currently locked in.
yeah, our society has pretty much devolved into two opposing camps, and you'll never convince one of what the other's truth is. It's just works both ways.
Yeah, and that seems to be an observation that I see, how would you say, made from a lot of people. It's like, it's kind of like trying to tell a Cubs fan to root for the Sox.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not going to happen. Why? I mean, I kind of get it. And so as an artist, it's like, I can totally see why you would kind of, move on to other things, because you're like, okay, this is really, you're not able to, how would you say, push your craft in a way.
Yeah, and that's one thing I really like about art is there are many different ways to express yourself, and they don't all necessitate a response by other people. I mean, when I stopped doing editorial cartoons, I didn't miss it a bit, because I had so many other topics and subjects to express myself with artistically that don't piss people off, and they don't. doesn't require their approval. The things I do for myself are what I value the most.
Yes, and I think that's why I'm doing this is like, I love painting people. I realize that there isn't a market for it, but, it's at the same time, it's like, I love going to the drawing group and painting people. I love the challenge of the time constraint. At the same time, I feel like, some people, I kind of miss the good old days when Bernard was there and we could sit there and banter very loudly and joyful, and we were a smaller group too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking about like the early days, and we could sit there and talk, and it I don't know. I think it's kind of, I missed that in some ways, but.
And it had a lot to do with being a smaller group too.
Yeah.
Because the larger it gets, the less banter can be upheld. And
Well, we needed to get bigger for survival.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
thing. I mean, it's like, I know that Bernard was like, oh, there's too many people. And I'm like, yeah, but we need to survive. We need this. We need to be able to pay the model.
yeah,
Which was tough.
groups change over time. There's no getting around.
I still love it, but I mean, it's just, I miss the,
It's kind of different experience.
yeah, it's like a very cavalier, fun, jovial time. And it was, I don't know, it was just different,
Yeah.
but I still enjoy the drawing group. I still meet the people, but like you said, I think things evolve, and for the drawing group, we had to get bigger, and we had to use social media to get bigger, and
Yeah.
but at the same time, we've met at the drawing group people we would have never met. If we'd have stayed the small little group at Jaffa,
Yeah.
it would have. I don't think we would have been around today. I know we wouldn't have been. It just, things would have happened, and we would have not been able to continue at some point.
Some of my very best friends are from drawing group, and it changes every way. When we change venues, that can be a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly start in a new, different place that you have to travel to in different ways, and
It's like being evicted, and
Yeah.
it was such a stressful time for at times for me and Bernard in the earlier days when we lost Jaffa, and we had to go and look for other places, and we weren't sure we were going to find a place, or we'd look at several places and say, yep, nope, this is not going to work for us.
we've been in some strange places, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
There was a short time where we were at Waterside. Do you
That
remember
was
that?
bizarre. They're like, this used to be Jillian's.
Yes,
And we're
exactly.
looking out into the harbor. It's like the best view.
I know, it was wonderful sunsets we would see.
Terrible for the lighting for the
Right.
drawing group.
Right.
I did get a couple good paintings from that session, but yeah, it definitely was not typical or conducive for most. I think when the days got shorter and we were able to, it got darker, that's when we were able to, the lighting got better. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, or was it, I can't remember. I thought it was in the fall, but maybe it was in the spring.
I remember.
I know, it gets to be a blur at some time, at some point.
And part of the time we were at Alchemy, the landlord wouldn't pay his heating bill, and it would be really freezing there. We'd take all the heaters that were available and put them around the model, so the model didn't get frostbitten. And the rest of us were huddling in our jackets and scarves and hats. And I've got photos from that period, and it was kind of funny to see how we were all bundled up trying to paint.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways.
But we did it.
And we couldn't find a place in between. So while we needed Alchemy at the same time, we knew it was going to be temporary. I think when me and Bernard got there, we said, I don't know how long we have here, but I'm pretty sure this is not going to be a long term.
Yeah. Well, we were told at the beginning that we were we were welcome there because this is the newly established arts district, and who's better at arts than a Norfolk drawing group? But that didn't really pan out that way.
Yeah, we're kind of like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
Again. But I think we've got a good place where we are with the Norfolk State. I think it's a great fit.
Yeah, it feels substantial and like it's not going to go away. And they appreciate us being there. And
yeah, and we get a lot of art students there, which is good.
oh yeah, that's kind of fun too, especially to see the work when you go upstairs and watch what the students have been doing all this time. That's kind of really fun.
It's humbling because it's like, I remember when I was there at that skill level, and you're like, oh, I remember what it was, how frustrating. It just, for me, I do get flashbacks about, how frustrating that period of time was for me in college.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to just put things together, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I knew I didn't know what I was doing, and all I kept getting from teachers is be patient. I was like, I don't want to be patient. I want to do it now. Because it's true though, you have to be patient, and that's the tough pill to swallow. Is that you have to be patient. It does not come overnight. You can't force it. And and I know I did my damnedest to try and force it.
Yeah, and you got to learn to accept your own limitations and your own interests, and not try to be something you're not, and not try to imitate the work of people that is just not conducive to you. It's hard.
Yeah, that's a tough thing, is to have. I know that for me, I've tried to move on from person to person to person so that, I never felt like, I'm this clone. Because I remember illustrators would talk about that, with, comic book artists specific, like, oh, this was a Neil Adams clone. Here's another Neil Adams clone. One of my favorite ones that me and Devon were talking about was Neil Singovich. And he was...
Oh, I don't know him.
I know you've probably seen
I probably
his
would
work.
recognize.
He did X-Men. He did a lot of the comics in the early '80s with X-Men, and really just got an amazing style. And then he changed it all up.
Wow.
He took a break, went to Paris. I forgot what he did at Paris. Did he take art lessons or painting lessons? I don't know what he did. I know he took a break, and he reinvented his style. And I thought that was amazing, and when I was in illustration class, I was like, wow, to sit there and just like say, I think it was at the top of his game, mind you, but to sit there and say, okay, fine, I'm done, and I'm going to move on.
Wow.
That takes guts to some degree.
Yeah.
To know that, hey, I need to change. At least that was my interpretation of, how that was,
One of my huge influences in the early days was the underground cartoonists of the 60s and 70s.
Crumb?
R. Crumb, he was my hero. And in fact, I started cartooning exactly like him, and I had to stop doing that because I didn't want to just be an imitation Crumb, but he was so good at drawing it. And several
very expressive, which is, you can what you can do when you have just enough foundation, and then to move on. That's the work of a genius.
Yeah, to do something new with what you've mastered.
Yeah, definitely. That is. I also liked from some of those days. What was his name? Harvey. He hired different artists, I believe. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that's ringing a
American
bell.
Splendor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel so stupid for forgetting his name. He died a few years ago, I believe. And but yeah, I really his stories about his, you know, daily life as a working in, you know, social services or social security or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it just really kind of made, wow, this guy's doing a comic book and it's just about everyday life.
Yeah.
It's not a superhero in tights. It's not, you know, it's not this, you know, guy with a lot of conflict. It's if anything, he's kind of like resigned to the mundane.
Yeah, it was very,
But it was
very
fascinating.
quiet and interesting. Yeah.
It crept up on you, I felt. You know, you're like, where is this going? And suddenly you realize it's like, oh my God, I'm really deep into this world of his. You know?
Yeah.
And it just for me, I felt like, wow, I never imagined that I would be really into this. And I think there's some contemporary comic book artists like, what's that guy who did, he does this, Chris Ware.
Chris Ware. Oh my God, he's amazing. I bought a big fat book of his just the other day at Local Heroes, and it's just, he is so meticulous and interesting in his work.
I love his dialogue.
Yeah.
His dialogue is so unique. It's definitely one of those of, you know, this is how people really talk.
Yeah.
And there's ums and there's ahs and there's pauses and there's half words.
And it's especially interesting where he has several different trains of things going on in the same story simultaneously.
He's very good at mixing the plot.
Yeah.
And kind of, you know, it's hard to really kind of get you, I think that's one of the things that it really kind of gets my goat is that when a movie, me and my son, we watched this movie called Midway, and it was just recent that it came out, and I think it went quickly to, what do you call it, DVD or video or, you know, streaming, went quickly to streaming, because I swear, it just seems like the other day I saw the trailer for it, and then it's out already on streaming, so we were watching it, and I was like, it's got some really big names and actors, Woody Harrelson, and what was the other guy? There were quite a few big name actors in it, and it was fascinating to see how the plot just fell apart because they were just trying to do too much. You know, they wanted to tell Pearl Harbor and they wanted to do this, and you're like, dude, everybody knows about Pearl Harbor. Let's just move on to, you know, the plot. And that was the thing, is that they spent so much time on the build up and the building. The action was amazing, but the character buy-in was so flat. You know, one of the main characters, when he was dive bombing, you're like, I could care less if he dies.
Wow.
But as an artist, when you're trying to convey a story, do you find that's tough to a struggle to develop a character that people care about?
I have to say that that's not my primary concern. I figure if I care about it, then enough of the people who identify with me and who like me will care about it too. So I don't. If it's something that I can get involved in emotionally, then that's my criteria.
So if you can get into it, then if it sucks you in, then you don't need to worry about.
Yeah, it's kind of how it's kind of a selfish attitude, but it's kind of how I feel.
I think that's true, though. I mean, it's like if you don't have buy-in, then nobody else is going to have.
If it's not real to me, then I'm being kind of fakey or something. You know, if I'm just trying to appeal to somebody else.
And that's a valid point. So I didn't know until when you mentioned it. I didn't know you were in the Air Force.
Oh yes.
What were you like Bob Ross in the Air Force, or drill sergeant, or did you?
No, I worked as a medical records technician.
Oh, so definitely something like American Splendor.
Yes. Yeah, but I did cartoons making fun of my bosses and stuff, and got in a little trouble every once in a while for doing that, but. the Air Force was fine for me, and it allowed me to go back to school on the GI Bill, which was.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go to school?
The final time I went to school was at Ohio Wesleyan University, just outside of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. And so that's how you. You went for a 4-year degree.
Yeah, and it was actually an arts degree, but it wasn't. It's just because I took a lot of art classes, basically.
Gotcha. So you kind of went in as a general studies, and then kind of walked out with a art.
Yeah, not that degree helped me in many ways. I mean, it was fun to do art instead of having to study biology or something, but it didn't turn me into somebody who could make a career out of art. I mean,
so where did you go? So if you didn't feel like you could make a career out of art out of college, what gave you your feet, so to speak, to be able to do so?
Just little by little, I moved to Norfolk, and I got a job working for an architectural firm, and basically all I would do would be to gather together their proposals for government jobs and see that they got printed in the print shop downstairs. And I mean, there was creativity involved in laying out the pages, that kind of thing. But it's not the kind of art I wanted to end up doing. It was just something interesting to do to make money and pass the time. And in the meantime, I kept doing my cartoons, and because I had access to the print shop downstairs, I learned how to operate the stat camera and the printing press, and I ended up printing my first book of cartoons myself in the print shop, and assembling it and trimming it and everything. And Bill Candler, the editor of Metro magazine, got hold of a copy of that, and he did a little article about it in there, and I rented a PO box so people could order copies of it, and I actually sold some copies of it through them. So.
Wow. So this, I think that's amazing, because this was way before the internet, and yet at the same time, I can imagine the source of pride that you just stumbled in and said, I'm going to do it. Like this whole, I think in a lot of ways, kind of it is a signature of what you do in your career, is that, you have this do-it-yourself attitude. I remember when you put the book out digitally and you just put it out for free, and like, hey, here it is. And I mean, I know from the work that you did, you put a lot of it was not sloppily done by any means. It was a real, even though it was a PDF, it was a real book.
Yeah.
And I found that was amazing. I remember seeing that, and I was like, wow. I don't have the time. B, this is really amazing. And it's like, I don't even have the collection of work. And I think that was the amazing thing that I enjoyed about you, is that you had just an amazing body of work. And so you could do these books, and it's not like you say, I want to do a book, and you've only got like 24 paintings.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily do that.
Yeah, I do. Well, because I draw every day, so that builds up an inventory after a while, for sure.
Yeah.
And I've always had trouble melding commerce into my artwork. I mean, I will gladly do an assignment for somebody, and we'll arrive at a price for it, and I'll finish it and do it, and that's different from what I do for myself. And I really have trouble charging people for the stuff I do for myself. Like if I have a show at an art gallery, I put stupidly low prices on it because I don't want do that to make money, you know. I don't make my art to make money, and if somebody came along and said, I really like your picture, I would give it to them, and that would be really cool for somebody who really liked my work to have it.
Oh, wow.
And to put a price on it just feels a little bit creepy for some reason.
Yeah. Wow, it's a shame that we almost have to end on lawnmowers, but
No,
gosh,
that's what that is.
I know, it's like, what in the hell? And it's like, my neighbor.
Well, that's reality for you.
Yeah, that's reality. This is a real thing. This is not fake. This is not fake media, fake news. This is real. This isn't special effects.
Yeah.
I don't have any people out there putting on a show. I guess it's kind of like the clown kind of saying, do.
Yeah.
So we are only have a few minutes that I want to put on this. I want to kind of keep to my promise to you to keep this at an hour. You know, an hour. We're just at an hour. Do you believe it's been an hour?
I know. Time goes fast when you're talking.
Yeah, it does. I mean, especially when it's a good conversation and you're learning about someone.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll finish off with, I'd like to talk about before Facebook, you got really, I feel like you got really popular with
Blogs.
your blogs. And this is kind of, in some ways, this is kind of the inspiration of me doing this, because I feel like, you know, this is kind of what, you know, people want. They want something real. They don't want to have something produced and polished. They want to feel like, oh, I know this person. And I feel like by, you know, people watching me paint you, they get a sense of who you are.
Yeah.
Versus just like, oh, there's just another portrait. Who is this person? Why should I care?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
No, blogging was great for a while until like Facebook destroyed it. But Crack Skull Bob was my blog, and I had blogging friends across the country and in Europe too, and we were all pals, and we got together, met each other in person and had fun, and everybody had their own distinctive blog that had a very different personality, and it was just a great way to have friends, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's also key to what we talked about, you know, is the ability to have this community. I mean, there's still things that are good about Facebook, but at the same time, I don't feel that way when I see Instagram. Instagram just feels so manufactured. Am I wrong? Or do you feel? How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm on Instagram, but there's just such an avalanche of pictures every day, picture, that I have trouble absorbing anybody's personality from it, you know.
Exactly, and I think you know that's.
And blogs were great at that, and Facebook not so great, but there was something to it. I mean, I feel like I can write stuff on Facebook in addition to showing pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, I don't feel that so much.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because it feels like
Let's see if we can make that lawnmower even noisier.
I know.
Sounds like a drill.
It does. It totally does. Thanks a lot for screwing this up.
That adds to the reality of the session.
Yes.
This is happening in the real world.
In the real world. Yeah, I think I've got just a few more strokes, and I think I'm done. I mean,
cool.
I'm about to go and
can't wait to see what you've done.
I'm about to throw pine cones at the lawnmower. I've got plenty of pine cones on my yard.
Do you really?
No, he's doing a job. You know, I get it. You know, it's.
Oh, the ones that drive me crazy are the leaf blowers.
I'm sure they'll have the leaf blower. We'll have the leaf blower.
That is so noisy.
It is.
And man, if you happen to walk around a corner and into the wave of one of those. It's kind of nasty.
You know, back to the Squarespace days in your blog. Could you tell everybody how many visitors you had coming to your site every day?
Oh, a couple of hundred. And
I mean, I remember you had like, I mean, it was like, you know, for like a month you had like easily 30 to 40, 50, 60,000 or more.
yeah, could have. Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to how many.
It was an insane amount.
Lots of views. Yeah.
I definitely, when you told me, I said, well, I can definitely see why, because the way that you expressed yourself in those blogs were, you were brutally honest.
Well,
and I think that was what was really refreshing about this, is like, here's somebody who's brutally honest about himself, about life in general, about their feelings, and
it was such an outlet. It was better than going to see a psychiatrist or something. You could just express yourself and have people listen and watch and accept whatever crazy shit you said, you know.
Yeah, and do you feel like any of the stuff that you said on your blog that you got backlash from, or hurt, you know, maybe hurt you, or maybe not hurt you, but influenced as far as the, how do you say, oh, we were considering using you for this job, but, you know, we saw your persona and, you know, we're afraid you're some serial killer who's got your parents locked up, and your real name is Reuben Fletcher.
That might have been, yeah, Reuben Fletcher. That might have happened, but if it did, I wasn't aware of it. But I set a tone to it that made it clear that I'm not being serious. I'm just being nutty and saying crazy stuff that comes into my head. So no, there's no need to take it seriously or be offended or anything. I'm just being crazy.
Do you think you could do stuff like that now, though, in this, you know, cancel culture that seems?
It's a lot harder. Yeah, it's a lot harder. In fact, you know, I find myself not trying very much, but it was a different time, you know. And
yeah, it used to be you could say whatever you want on your website or whatever, and not fear, you know, how you're feeling. And then I remember one time I kind of dipped my foot into a political view concerning, you know, Native Americans, and people I never thought would really, you know, step into, you know, I thought I was trying to raise awareness because it wasn't in the news, and because what I'd seen due to the internet, and you can see things before any of the news, I was just like, I guess my initial posture was like, I can't believe that nobody's saying this in the news, and you know, and I think I even drew a comparison photo from historical, like, this is like historical, right? And you know, people, I think, just really were like, no, I don't know why I got the okay, so looks like you're the only painting session today.
No.
That's fine. I say, oh great, I've all set up and I'm ready for Randy, but
oh, he's not coming?
no. Randy was a fellow student of mine at VCU. So he would love his work. You may have seen his work. He did that giant pinball machine when Norfolk had that. Granby Street had that. What do you say, that? Like art street thing, and I think it won an award.
Oh,
and
sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah.
Lance Armstrong was going to buy it.
Really?
Yeah, but he wasn't done with it.
Wow.
And then now Randy was like, man, I wish I'd sold it to him.
Dang.
Because, you know, I don't think Lance has got the funds to buy stuff much now. Maybe he does. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, he was very committed to. I mean, it was a lot of work because it's. And just for everybody, I'm talking about somebody I hope to have on my next painting session soon, is my friend Randy, who hand built a pinball machine from scratch.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, crazy, huh? All right. I think I'm almost done here but at least the lawnmowers have stopped.
Yeah, now they stop.
Yeah, it's like, thanks.
I know it's very
edit
quiet
that
right
out.
now, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't edit that out.
Mhm.
Maybe they're picking weeds. I don't know. Let's see here. I'm trying to not overwork this and still keep the freshness, but add a little bit more. Yeah, let's see here. I like talking when I'm painting because I feel like sometimes it's like I'm on autopilot and I don't overthink things. You
Yeah,
ever feel that
yeah.
way?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
We're probably gonna have to grab something to eat because I haven't eaten either. So we're gonna have to finish this up here.
Did you hear my stomach growling?
Yeah.
I hope the
I
microphone
know.
caught that.
I offered Walt
just,
something. I offered him coffee. I just should have offered food. I apologize
Nah.
for that. All right, I think I'm
you do want
almost
to
done.
paint a picture of me eating.
You know, that's a fascinating thing. It's just like, you know, another reason I did this is like, you know, there are people making money and they just have a camera trained on them while they sleep. While they sleep. While they sleep. It just blows me away. While you're making money sleeping. It just, does it just feel like, what world are we in where you can get paid to let people like watch in on you at just a cam?
I find myself saying, what world are we in for just about everything that happens these days?
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm being old on this one. I feel like it's just like, okay, that just happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess, you know, power to somebody. I mean, and from the article I read, they're just sleeping. They are not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's you know, and we all know that, you know, there's plenty of people who make money, you know, on the internet doing all kinds of things. But this one was just sleeping. And I was just like, okay. All right.
Did I hold still enough for you on this? I feel like I've been talking so much that your painting is going to show my mouth is just a blur.
Oh, here, I can take a brayer and fix that. Yeah. I think I'm at this point where I'm trying to get just, that's what I see. I love trying to get the eyes at least a little bit closer to what I'm trying to do and trying to get some of the character in it, and I don't want to overdo it though. You know, over the render of the eyes. I love those, like, Sargent was so amazing. He could get the eyes, but he wouldn't overdo it. He would just get it right. And
He was amazing at a lot of stuff.
and his watercolors, you know, we've got to go see the charcoals he's done in DC. No, I overworked it.
DC, I love going to the National Portrait Gallery. That's just such an amazing museum up there.
Yeah, it is, and my cousin works there.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He told me that. I don't think they're the director anymore, but there was a director who did not like Salvador Dali and put his put the Last Dinner next to the elevators on purpose because he did not like it.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I don't think that director is there anymore. So I find that stuff funny. You know, it's like, I might be tempted to do that to, like, say, Banksy.
Banksy. Or the guy who nailed a banana to the wall.
Or yes, that would be an elevator. You know, being next to the elevator for me, that definitely would be. Definitely, I don't know. This is a mad world.
But so many things can be art. You know, that's what's really cool about it.
Yes, you're right. So many things can be art, and I guess, I don't know. I feel like as an artist, though, do you feel like sometimes you're entitled to label what can be art and what can't be, and you're kind of an authority on it to some degree, or no?
I resist that temptation as much as I can.
I don't know. I have.
I mean, I love children's art. I love folk art. Art is what you think it is. That's my opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody looks at a Norman Rockwell and says, "That's my idea of art," well, that is for them. That's art to them, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
who am I to say it's not? You know.
But what about, like, you know, the banana taped onto the?
Yeah, well, that kind of stretches things.
It does stretch
But, I
the
mean,
imagination.
it is making an artistic statement of some form or another. You know, it's not pure random. I forget his name, but the artist who had somebody shoot him with a gun in the gallery.
Oh yeah.
Remember him?
I do remember hearing about that one, or maybe it was in class that I'd heard about that. French, right? Or Italian.
I forget. I totally forget.
And he died, right? It was a film, shot him and...
Oh, no, he didn't die from that shot, no.
Oh.
I think he was American. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe this happened more than once, I don't know.
I remember when I was in a surrealist film class, they talked about stuff like that.
Chris Burden. I don't know, that name came back to me. Chris Burden was his name.
Okay. And he died, or is he alive?
No,
or?
well, I don't know how old he was. I don't know if he's died yet, but he didn't die from that shot.
Oh, lucky for him. Yeah, I would have been like, "Oop, there goes your career. Oh, you're great. Now you're dead." Nobody wants to be the dead artist.
No, that's true. Nobody wants to be dead anything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's what I think drives some artists is they want to have their work appreciated in the moment, not after the fact.
Yeah, I guess.
And I think you've been pretty successful at that, you know, as far as, you know, you've reached a lot of people, which I think a lot of artists don't get to say that they, I mean, not many artists can say my art has reached in a lot of people. And
I feel pretty fortunate that I have had the kinds of venues that I've had. I've drawn hundreds and hundreds of people at Cafe Stella, for example, and it gets seen, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
No complaints.
It's Stella is your, how would you say, your hunting spot? I don't want to say hunting spot, but I mean, it's your observational place to observe.
Yeah. And the best part of it for me is that money is not involved in that. I don't sell them. I don't have to sell them for anything. That's what I go and do for my pure pleasure of doing it. And I'd like to see other people get pleasure from it too. And what more can I ask of art?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on that one. All right, well, I'm at a flummoxed part. I have to just work this corner out, and
Alrighty.
I am, and I think we're done. I'm just trying to make it soft enough, and I think it's kind of hard to be in this environment that I'm in and just know when to stop, because I'm ultimately, between you and me, we're ultimately in control of, like, okay, you could get up and say, "Doug, I'm done," and you know, "Are you done yet?" Or, you know, "For Christ's sakes, just can you finish this?" And I think that, I think I'm almost there.
All right.
I think I really am almost there. I hope I am, and try and keep this fresh. That's the thing I like is, you ever see, it's rare when you see an artist that, there's an artist I really admire a lot. His name's Sean Cheatham.
Don't know.
He's amazing. And he does these live demos, and he knocks them out in about an hour.
Wow.
And it's totally inspiring. It really is. And, me and Devon were talking about another artist as well that, does a lot of, I don't know how much direct observation he does, but he does quite a lot, and he's amazing and inspiring. And when I see them, do their work and how prolific they are, it really inspires me to try to, get that moment and capture that feeling of, hey, this is the person.
Yeah, and the gift to be able to capture it simply without overworking it.
Oh yes, that is the constant bane of my life. It's just, oh, is it done yet? And is it, but at some point, these are all process work. They have to end. It all has to end.
Well, I look at your stuff up on the wall, and it's so fresh. I mean, nobody would ever call that overworked. I mean, you look like you got the impression you wanted and stopped. And that's a beautiful point to get to.
Yeah, and I feel like I was thinking that earlier this week. I was like, oh, I could probably overwork that one again some more. Sure. Yeah.
Resist the temptation.
Nobody will know. Nobody cares. I think that's the thing is that because we live in a vacuum in some ways that in this digital world where everything is everybody's screaming at the same time and we don't have time to let things ruminate.
Yeah.
We're publish, and don't let it ruminate.
I feel sorry for children. They don't have time to get bored, and boredom is what leads to creativity.
I don't know. My kids draw a lot. They do. They draw a lot, and they.
Well, that's good. I mean, I just hear a lot of things about kids who are constantly looking at their screens all the time, and.
Oh yeah, screen time. But they said that about comic books. It's going to rot your brain. Rock and roll is going to rot your brain. You're going to, you're going to be a deviant if you listen to, a steady daily diet of rock and roll.
Well, I'm not thinking about the medium so much as the fact that something's being placed in front of you, and you don't have the opportunity to just wander off and be bored and have nothing going on, and then you have to start thinking of stuff up yourself.
That's true. That's true.
It's all put before you.
Yeah, but I think sometimes my kids I never thought my kids would the things they search just it really impressed me. My son is totally into history.
Oh, that's cool.
And I mean, he knows so much about history. It's flattering.
How old is he?
He's 15 now.
Ah.
But I mean, a 15-year-old really just deep diving in an afternoon on YouTube, learning about, history.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, and he has an unlimited resource to fill the hunger, to fill that passion.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter, I mean, she watches some frivolous things, but look what was on TV when we were growing up. Is it really that different? I mean, it's like how much of a growth did we get from Tom and Jerry and Bugs Bunny and?
Well, of course, in my earlier years of growing up, we didn't even have TV.
Yeah.
I can remember our first TV when I was 10 or 11 or something, but until then, I just had to sit around outside and try to think of something interesting to occupy my mind.
I remember my grandmother. I stayed with my grandmother after my grandfather died, and she went to North Carolina, and I didn't have my friends, and I was in a trailer for a little bit till she bought a house. She rented a trailer till they bought a house for her mother and took care of her mother in her final years. And I just remember that whole summer of just bored out of my mind, and I felt like, oh, what a waste of a summer. What a complete, absolute wasteland of nothing to do, But, at the same time, maybe there was something I did there, and maybe I did drawings I don't remember, but, those are the things that, I think you're right. Boredom does bring out, creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, my son's kind enough to let me know that he's on his way. Get the seagull. All right, I think I'm done. We've hit the 124 mark.
Wow. Okay.
So Walt, where can people find your work? if they want to find it online?
Facebook.
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 And should they follow you as Walt Taylor?
I think I'm called Wally Torta on Facebook. Or you could either name would bring me up.
Okay.
Catherine.
Cool. So if that isn't our cue to end this session, it's not. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in. And as my son's here, so we'll go ahead and log off. You can find Walt Taylor's work. Just search Walt Taylor, as well as you can search. You have Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
What's the Instagram?
That's Wally Torta 1.
Wally Torta 1. Someone else got Wally Torta?
No, I don't know why I put the 1.
That's awesome. All right, well, I'm going to turn this around real quick, and we'll get the reaction here. So we'll get the reaction. I'm just going to
Pressure's on.
I'm going to turn it around like I did Devon, and I'm going to see if I can loosen this up here. Yeah, there we go. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh man! Oh, that's great. You made me look kindly. Oh, that's terrific. Thank you. Oh, that's good.
Awesome.
I feel honored.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had fun, and
it was fun.
Yeah. So, all right, so we're signing off. Thank you again. Once again, you can find search Walt Taylor at Wally Torta 1 at Instagram, and search him on Facebook. And do you still have your Squarespace site?
No, I think I stopped paying for it, so they closed
Went
it
to
down.
the ether.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what a much. Did you keep your blogs?
Yeah. Well, actually, I made a book.
Where can they get the book?
What's the name of that website?
Amazon?
No, it's a name like Lucy.com or something.
Okay, I'll put it in the link at the end of the
okay, I'll try to remember the name.
Blurb?
No.
Okay, yeah, we'll find it on and then I'll put it on the link below the video. So, thank you again for tuning in, guys, and stay tuned. I'm hoping to have some more people soon. Thank you again. Later.